I figured while I have this Philco Town Country set out, I might as well take a closer look at it. In particular, I've been testing the tubes, and I was quite surprised to find that so far only one of them has been good. Now this guy was physically damaged. It's actually broken. It might have been the same impact that broke the plastic on the front, shattered this tube. So understandable that that one will be bad, but all these have been testing really weak. This one in particular, one side's very weak, the other side had 0 emissions. And these two were very weak. Now luckily, it didn't take me too long to go through my tube caddies and locate some new old stock replacements. Still have a bunch to test down here in the IF strip. Once I've populated all the tubes, I'm going to try powering this up. I'll use my usual precautions of a variac and a dim bulb. One reason I'm not too, not as concerned as I would be with other sets is that this set's comparatively new, 1961. That's about 12 to 15 years newer than most of the TVs I work on, and certainly a lot newer than the radios I work on. Also, it's got built-in fusible resistor, and it also has silicon diodes on it. And it's a transformerless set, runs right off the line voltage. What that means with the silicon diodes is that I can slowly power this up on a variac over a very long period of time, say an hour or two, to reform the capacitors, or at least attempt to. Hopefully I can reach around down here, because I was informed the filter caps are underneath here. I want to feel them to see if they get warm. If I can slowly crank up the line voltage and they don't get warm, I might still be able to get some life out of them. Oh, and the reason I point out the silicon rectifier is that they'll conduct throughout a range of 0 to full line voltage. If it had a vacuum tube rectifier, if say your variac's only on 20 volts, there's going to be so little juice going to the filament of the rectifier tube, it's not going to be providing voltage to the rest of the set to reform the electrolytics. So I will continue testing the tubes, and I'll get this back on the workbench. I tell you, I've never encountered a set with so many bad tubes. They're all the originals. They're all these Philco Cool chassis branded tubes. What I find so odd is that for all these tubes to test so bad, look at this. It's terrible. This set must have been run a lot. But what's odd is that the picture tube tests so good, so I thought it would be a low-hour set. But if it's a low-hour set, I can't understand why all these tubes would test so weak. I just finished testing the tubes, and all but 2 were bad, really bad. The only 2 tubes that are any good are the 17D4 damper and this guy, 4CS6. So, again, I'm rather perplexed. Maybe there was a power surge that somehow fried the tube filaments but spared the picture tube somehow. I don't know. So I'll have to go back into my tube caddies and track down all these tubes. I spent a couple hours hunting through my tubes and then testing them, and I did pretty good. I found either new old stock or used but very good tubes for all of them except for 11JE8. I made 2 of them. I've never even heard of that tube type before, and I suspect they were never very widely used, because I've got thousands of TV tubes and I just do not have any of these. The bigger shame is that if I had 2 that had good filaments but weak emissions, at least I could throw them in the set and start trying to reform those caps and power it up. But this one has gone gassy, completely shot. It's a series wired set unless I have good tubes, nothing's going to light up. I will take a look at a tube substitution guide and see if I can find something that's compatible, but 11 volt filament tubes are not very common at all. I came across very few, so even if there are some valid substitutes, it seems like the odds are against me that I would even have those. But they are readily available online, so I think I'll just go ahead and order up a couple, and we'll just have to wait a week or so for them to show up. Well, maybe we won't have to wait a week. I found a tube substitution guide online, and the two top numbers are the preferred substitute, and the two on the bottom are acceptable substitutes. Well, I went hunting again, and I found a single 10GN8, and it tests very good, so I can use this, and I can use the one original tube that tests weak, but at least it has filament continuity. And look at this on the workbench, hook up my Variac, and let's see what happens. I bent back some metal tabs and managed to get this cover off, and now we can see the flyback. Looks to be in pretty darn good condition. There's a high voltage rectifier. So the electrolytic cans must be behind this back metal wall, like down in the bowel somewhere back there. So I guess I'm not going to be able to feel to see if they're getting hot. I'm going to try powering this setup. Man, they really hit them good. I just cannot see them anywhere. Well, I'll just keep my fingers crossed and keep a close eye on things. Alright, so I'll get a cheater cord, plug it in here, and get it going on the Variac, and let's see what happens. Okay, I've got the Variac down around 40 volts. Let's see what happens. I wouldn't expect much of anything to happen, actually, because but the light bulb's glowing a bit. So that's a good sign. It means it's drawing some juice. Well, I should say it's potentially a good sign. Oh, let me try that again. Seems like the bulb was a bit bright and then it went dark. That would be a really good sign, so that means there's no dead short. It means the tube filaments warmed up a bit, which dropped the current draw. I'll probably give them long enough to cool off. Well, I will keep at it and slowly increase the Variac voltage, and I'll pick up recording when there's something to see. Okay, I've worked my way up to about 65 volts, and I think you'll see now much more clearly what I was talking about earlier. So when I turn this on, there goes the bulb, and it should dim down. Alright, so far everything seems to be okay. I'll just keep at it. It's been a couple hours, and I've been increasing the Variac to the point where I've maxed it out, but I still have the 150 watt bulb in series. No problems have developed, and I can hear a bit of sound out of the speaker. It's faint though, and there's no glow on the picture tube, no high voltage yet. So I think what I need to do is take that bulb out and do a full power test. I borrowed some knobs from one of my Predicta sets, so I can make those adjustments if needed. Well, here goes. Oh, that pilot light there. It's in channel 7. I think there's supposed to be a light here too, but it burned out. Tubes are all lighting up. I'm listening to hear if I can hear the high voltage oscillator kick in. No, but it might be really quiet. Oh wait, yeah. Well, looks like we have no vertical. Try making an adjustment. Huh. I noticed both the horizontal and vertical are completely slammed over to one end of their rotation. Back that off a little. No, still nothing. There's brightness. Definitely want to keep that well down. I don't want to burn a line into the set. Let's see, I'll put this on channel 6. See about that sound. Oops, wrong way. That sort of sound, and I think I even recognize the song. It's used in some car commercial, and I've heard it incessantly. Oh, that's all very promising. Now, it turns out that those tubes that I was having trouble with are pretty critical. One is video output and one is sound output. So I'm not surprised we've got issues with both, and of course the vertical oscillator's not running. But one thing I can do is try swapping the tubes. So right now the substitute is here, and I've got the original down here. This is the sound output. So I don't expect swapping these to fix the vertical, but if I put this tube over here, we might get some better sound. Okay, I've swapped the tubes, so let's give this another try. It's certainly a lot louder. Of course, it's just a horrible hum. Fine tuning. Trace back on the screen. Alright, well, this is all good. So I know the picture tube is good, flyback's good, and there doesn't seem to be any other critical problems, so now it'll just be a matter of, well, I gotta track down 2 of the proper tubes, and eventually get around to pulling out these circuit boards and giving it a full overhaul. I'll save that for a little bit later, but yeah, this is definitely a good first power up. I don't know if any of you are wondering what's going on with the Brunswick. I ordered up some reproduction parts for that, and they should be here in a few days, then I hope to wrap up that project. But for now, I'm going to go back to working on the Philco 15DX.